Welcome back to history. So today we are going to read section 4 of our history text in ancient Greece, and we're going to learn about ancient Sparta. So Sparta was a sister city-state, you could call it, to Athens, but there's a very big difference between the two, and you're going to see that as you read through the text. Now, many of you may be familiar with the word Sparta because of the Spartan races that occur, where people trudge through mud and all sorts of different obstacles. That was stemmed from the idea of Sparta, or at least they're named after the city-state of Sparta. They're known for having strong warriors in Sparta. So let's take a preview of our text before you jump in and read. Key ideas are Sparta developed an oligarchy type of government based on military conquest. So not a democracy like Athens, it was an oligarchy. And Sparta differed greatly from Athens in terms of its education of its people, the citizenship, who wasn't a citizen, and women's roles were different in Sparta as well, which we already kind of took a little peek at before. Now we have our key terms. Let's see if we can find those as we go through the text. So we see a statue of a Spartan hero. This would be the typical soldier outfit, and they definitely were big in the power of Sparta, those soldiers. So we had a military-run state that was an oligarchy. Let's see what E4 was.
F4. Man responsible for the day-to-day operation of the government in Sparta.
Oh, I closed it too quickly. In Sparta, he was responsible for the day-to-day operations. They made sure that the kings and the council acted like they should according to Spartan laws. So they could even remove a king from power if they needed to. Now, as you read, you're going to be completing some questions on page 128 about your key terms. So you might want to pay particular attention to those as you read through the text. Now, our next key term was a helot, and it said that the helots belonged not to individual Spartans, but to the polis as a whole. So that's the city-state as a whole. They were forced to farm the land and to make food for the rest of Sparta. They were treated very harshly, and they had to dress in a certain way so that you could identify them. So these were not free people. These were not citizens. They were conquered by Sparta when Sparta would go out and conquer other city-states, and then they would force these people, enslave them to farm their land and make food for them. Another key term here we have is a military state.
Military state. Society organized for the purpose of waging war.
And Sparta definitely fits that bill. They went out and waged war on other surrounding city-states around them. Like I said, they conquered peoples and then forced them into slavery to be farming their land. So Sparta was, in fact, a military state. All right, let's continue previewing our text. We can see here about education. Now, barracks, that is a type of housing where they would send all of their males would go off to school, this military type school, to learn their education, not just academically, but to learn really how to be a warrior. And it was said that the woman's first priority was to make sure she was raising strong boys who would be warriors. So that war, that military, that really did play a huge piece in Spartan history. Now we can see here this graphic organizer that is comparing and contrasting the two city-states, Athens and Sparta, because believe it or not, they sound very different. They did have some similarities. So we can see they both did have assemblies that was made up of the free males, and they both had small councils on their governments. However, you can see that Sparta was led by kings, whereas Athens was led by that assembly, that political body. Sparta also had a smaller and less powerful assembly than that in Athens, which would make sense, right? Because they're led by the king. Athens had members of the council that would choose to serve, and we learned about that council, that smaller piece of the assembly. And in Sparta, their council members, they were serving for life. It wasn't just a one-year term like in Athens. In Sparta, it was, no, you are on the council for the rest of your life. So you better like it. I hope that's the job you want. All right, and then in Sparta, we had the kings and the council monitored by those ephors, by those people who were set apart to make sure were the kings obeying the law, and if they needed to be taken down, they would take them down. In Athens, we see kind of a check and balance in their government was that the courts were run by the citizens. So rather than being run by the assembly, the courts were run by the citizens. All right, and that is it for section 4. So as you read this text, I really want you to pay close attention to how are Sparta and Athens different? What are the differences you see? That's going to be a biggie when it comes to the test, looking and knowing at the difference between these two city-states. And while you read through this section today, you need to complete page 128 in your history packet. Remember, that's right before the section 3 quiz. Mrs. Mills made a mistake, stapled those out of order. So your page 128 is right before the section 3 quiz. And you just have 4 questions there about the key terms. Now, those are not just copy down the definition questions. Those are critical thinking questions. You need to read and understand what you're reading, think about it, and write your answers in a complete sentence, not incomplete sentences, in a complete sentence. Write your answers down, please. All right, so that is it for you today. Remember, these Spartans, they're fierce warriors, so you need to pay attention as you're reading through this text. All right, bye guys, have a great day.